Welcome to Destiny.Bungie.Org. Sorry, welcome to dboTV, where the DPO stands for Destiny.Bungie.Org, and not something silly like, disappearing bandana overlord. Right. My name is NCSU Duncan, and this is a little show I like to put on every week, Tuesday, 10 p.m. or maybe 5 minutes after 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. 7:05 Pacific. But anyway, let's dive into it. First, I've got two guests coming on. I've got DestinyAuthor from Destiny Dispatch, and I've also got Craig Hardgrove, or Roland, from Guardians of Destiny and Guardian Radio and Ghosts and Echoes and all that. But before I get to that, I want to just run through some Bungie news really quick, sort of the past week of news. Not a whole lot going on, but let's try this anyway. Hopefully, I've got a little bit better sound mix for my my news loop background music. But anyway, like I said, there wasn't a ton of news this week. We of course got a Bungie weekly update, but really all that was just a nice note from Deej, sort of explaining why the Bungie blog was really quiet this week. He and Urk were on a special mission to England, and while he couldn't really share the details of it, he did give us some amusing stories about, an encounter with a TSA agent, and then of course an encounter with British Customs, both fans of Bungie, or at least Bungie's previous games. So yeah, not a whole lot to glean there, but Deej sort of promised that the Bungie blog would come back online this week, and we'd get our usual dose of breaking in, and it sounds like we might get a Destiny drawing board, so that's pretty cool. I guess the other interesting tidbit of news from this past week was Bobby Kotick, who is the CEO of Activision, who of course is publishing Destiny. They had an earnings call where basically Activision calls up all of their investors, the big stockholders there, and one of the things Bobby and I guess Activision mentioned is that they expect Destiny to become the best-selling new video game in IP history. There's a little bit of confusion at first. I think Joystick or some of those news blogs sort of misquoted them at first, saying Destiny will be the best-selling game of all time. But I definitely think the best-selling new video game IP is a reasonable goal and something to shoot for Bungie. No pressure, of course. I mean, that's still a pretty lofty claim. But really, that pretty much, between that quote and a small weekly update, that pretty much covers all the official news to come out of the Bungie and Destiny world. There's a couple of community things that I wanted to hit, mostly fan art related. So, I'm always a big fan of Firestream, and he posted yet another one of his awesome Relics of Destiny images here, and sort of old-timey pictures. I also heard from somebody new. Hegemony found this on Tumblr, and this is from Ario117. And it's pretty cool, despite the fact that there is a DMR in this shot. That's definitely a Halo weapon. I doubt we'll see that in Destiny, but we'll definitely see some weapons kind of like that. But anyway, let's see, what else did we get? We got the first page of Fireteam Grizzly. This is from the Destiny Dispatch crew. Sort of webcomic that they're putting together. Pretty cool. I'm anxious to see what else we'll get out of that. This first page definitely seems to be setting up the story, but definitely check that out. I think their site is called HD Dispatch now, so update your links. And then I guess the last sort of community news thing that I wanted to hit was that our DBO's very own Mr. Padraig08 posted a write-up from PAX, a little belated, but I don't think I ever got around to actually posting a write-up. I just sort of did a podcast dboTV episode, so Padraig is actually doing better than me in that regard. He actually got around to writing the thing, but it's definitely an awesome read. You should check it out. It's over on the DBO forums. It's got lots of pictures and a couple videos too from Padraig's PAX adventures. Very, very entertaining. So check that out. Like I said, that's pretty much all that we got in terms of Destiny news past week. It's been kind of quiet for a couple weeks now, so I'm sort of anxious to see, some new piece of Destiny information for us to latch onto and discuss. At least give me a couple new topics for future dboTV episodes. But yeah, so let's fade out this background music. Let's move on to the subject at hand. Now this week, I want to sort of almost continue a conversation I started last week. Last week we were talking about different activities in Destiny with Dado and Malagate. And one of the things we sort of touched on was, how can those things be incorporated in the world of Destiny in a way that sort of makes them an in-universe activity, sort of meshes with the story. And that got me thinking about, how can the story in Destiny be presented in a way that fits within the world? Because, we've got this new game, it's a shared world shooter. It's got some MMO qualities to it. It's definitely got RPG qualities, and that's a different direction for Bungie games compared to the Halo games that we've gotten over the past 10 years from them. So that was something I wanted to dive into, and I sort of tentatively titled this "What If the Phones Rang," as a sort of reference to Joseph Staten's comment on the side story in ODST, because I felt like that was a really relevant thing to bring up when talking about Destiny. So to talk about this, I'm going to bring on two friends. The first, you might know him from the DBO forums as Roland. You might also know him as a real genuine spaceman, as Deej likes to call him in the Bungie podcast. Roland is a scientist at NASA JPL, their Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and he's done all kinds of cool things with the Mars Curiosity rover. So hold on, 1 second, and let me give Craig a call, and hopefully we can get him in here and start chatting. All right, video call. Craig, Skype has stopped working. Yet again, Skype is giving me problems, so I'll try to bullshit for a little bit while I reboot that. Craig, I've actually met twice now. First time I met him was at E3 at the Sony pre-party. He got invited to that as well by Bungie. And he was also at the Bungie after party after Sony's E3 press conference. So I first met him there, and then I met him again at PAX Prime. He came to the first official DBO meetup at Lunchbox Laboratory. So it's always a pleasure, and let's see if Skype actually works this time. There we go. Whoop. Craig, can you hear me?
Hello?
Alright, I think I can hear you. I can't see you, though.
Hello?
Craig, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I can hear you. I can't see you. Right now you're just a really pretty profile picture. It looks
I took that picture.
Nice. You took that picture from very far away.
Yeah, that's a picture from Curiosity.
Nice.
I don't know how that became my Skype. I probably changed it at some point, but.
All right, yeah, let's see. Hold on, let me see if I can do something to fix this video. I don't know what's up. I don't know. Any ideas on your end, Craig?
No.
Can you see me? Is my webcam working? Hold on.
I can see you on Twitch.
All right. Can you see me on Skype? Well, this is awesome. Yet again, Skype is giving me all kinds of lovely issues.
Hey, I can just be a picture of Mars. That's fine.
That's all right. Well, if you're okay with that, maybe it'll come back in a minute. I will say, if you're watching the Twitch stream, maybe try closing that. That might. I don't know if it's a bandwidth thing. If it's a bandwidth thing, it's probably on my end now. But anyway,
I didn't get a video
going,
request.
We'll move on.
Sure.
we'll allow Skype to sort itself out, or you'll just be a nice, pretty picture of Mars. I've got another picture here of you we can use as well.
Oh man, I think I know which one that is.
Yeah. Yeah. How's it going? How you been? It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, yeah. I think the first time we really talked was at PAX. I think the rooftop thing.
Yeah, that's the first time we like really got the. I
Yeah,
think we briefly spoke to each other at E3, but
yeah.
PAX was kind of the first time we sat down, and yeah, it was actually before the DBO meetup at PAX at the Bungie thing at Hard Rock Cafe.
That's right.
Which was
That's
pretty
right.
fun.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. So
Things are good. Things are good. Yeah, still working on the rover, and Ghosts and Echoes is evolving, which is fun, and Guardian Radio's a bunch of fun. So
yeah, I meant to mention that before. So Craig makes Ghosts and Echoes, which is this kind of awesome fan fiction radio drama slash. He even managed to fit some community news in there. So it's pretty cool. It's really entertaining, and I'm always impressed by the sort of sound design in it. Especially like this last episode, you fit a little bit of like Doctor Horrible's sing along blog in there.
I tell you, those are the most fun parts of that to do. There's a part of me that just enjoyed. I mean, it's a little bit of Portal or something, where
Yeah.
you have that AI singing, but there are just these songs that I've always really wanted to try to sing, and then you throw all the processing on your voice and stuff, and it's just so much fun to really like. Honestly, when I don't even when I go through in the end, it's just listen to the beginning. It's like it's entertaining for me. I don't know if it's entertaining for anybody else, but it's entertaining for me. So
Well, I definitely like that. So you've got at least one person entertained.
awesome.
How long? I guess how long does it take you to write those episodes, and how far ahead do you write them? Do you have them all written out, or are you doing it sort of on a weekly, monthly basis?
It's a little of both. So the whole overarching sort of story has been pretty much set for a long time. But the details on any given week, I pretty much work out on a week-to-week basis. So it's one of the awesome things about it is you probably noticed in the past few weeks there have been more voices sort of showing up on the show, and the great thing about it is I'm just sort of I give people kind of the overarching theme that I'm thinking of and where I feel like the character might fit in. But I'm lazy. I don't want to write I don't want to write all their dialogue, and I don't want to necessarily figure out all the details. So I just kind of let them take ownership of the character, and it's like the best thing ever because they come up with stuff that I could never come up with. And it winds up fitting so well together. So I feel like the show, I mean, the original idea was kind of mine and where it was going, but the show is really now just this big collaborative effort, and it wouldn't be what it is without everybody else who's now a huge part of it. So it's been awesome. It's been this just kind of organic thing that's grown out of this silly idea I had just because it came from I Love Bees. Do you remember that alternate reality game? Yeah, and so
the alternate reality game for Halo 2, right?
Yeah, and I did some of that. Like I went and answered payphones and stuff, and I just really got into the audio drama side of that, and decided that I just kind of wanted to try to do something like that, and that's kind of what came out of it. But also, and we'll get into this later, but I mean, some of the themes that I'm exploring in Ghosts and Echoes, I think, come out of the Destiny story, and that really spoke to me. Some of those themes, particularly like as they relate to sort of anthropology and humanity and our place in the solar system, and what the Traveler means to all of that. So that was the whole idea for that show, and it's just been so much fun. Like I'm not a writer by training. Like I'm not a fictional writer by training.
You could have fooled me.
But, thanks, but it's just been so much fun to sort of be creative instead of I'm doing sort of science stuff with my career, but just to really express a creative side and share it with a bunch of people is just awesome. So
that's cool.
Didn't mean to go off on that so much. But.
No, that's awesome. That was great. Sort of speaking of, well, I guess before we get to our next guest, who's patiently waiting in the sidelines, I'm sure. I just wanted to run a quick question by you. When did you start getting into the Bungie community, or what sort of attracted that to you? I know you've been a fan since like the marathon days, right?
Yeah, Marathon was the first game I played in any substantial way, and I think I played the demo when it first came out, and just really got into the story and the lore of Marathon.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't say I was really a big part of the community at that point. Um, it wasn't until much later when I kind of had felt like I had something to offer, and that was mainly through the music. I really dug the Marathon music a lot, and even though it was just this kind of cheesy MIDI stuff,
Hmm.
I felt like there was something more there to the music, and so I think it was in college or something, and when you just procrastinate forever in college, so I was procrastinating. Like, you know what, I want to take this one song in Marathon and just see what I can do with it, and I think
Yeah.
I just got in GarageBand and I just figured out the chords and put it together, and was like, this is kind of what I feel like this song maybe. This is what I hear in my head when I hear
Yeah.
these songs. And out of that, like basically, it took me a long time. Like 7 years later, I finished remaking the entire soundtrack, and so periodically I would post on the Marathon Story forum about, hey, I finished another track. Hey, I finished another track.
Yeah.
And I kind of got hooked up with the guy who Daniel Blezick, who put together the iPad app for
Hmm.
Marathon.
Yeah.
And the tracks actually never appeared in there, but he and I were chatting, and then kind of got in touch with OJ up at Bungie.
Oh yeah, that's
And
right, Andreas.
yeah, he's a huge space nut, and so we kind of hit it off, and so we just kind of kept in touch. And then in terms of being part of the Destiny community, I just one day was looking for Destiny content and found Guardian Radio, and I just loved those guys. Like, I listened. I think they were only on episode 5, and I was like, these guys are having the type of conversation I would want to have about this game. It just sounds like you're just having a relaxed, funny conversation. And so yeah, I sent them an email, and that's how I got hooked up sort of into the Destiny community.
That's
But yeah, it's been pretty recent, but yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, I'm really glad to sort of finally be a member of the community, because I've been lurking for so long, as a fan of Marathon and Halo, but never had too much to contribute other than the music to Marathon. So
I sort of felt the same way. I lurked HBO for a long time before I dove into the community. But
yeah.
being a Bungie fan for so long, do you have like a favorite moment from Bungie history, Bungie games, or just any experience you've had with Bungie?
Yeah, so I had to think about this one, but it all became pretty clear. I think I sent you a tweet that came from the Bungie account. So at some point, I think it was last January, they invited me up there to give a talk about the Curiosity rover and the science and stuff like that. And so I got to give a talk to the whole studio about that, and it was awesome. I mean, just kind of that dream come true moment where I was just super stoked and they were super stoked, so we were just stoked at each other. And it was awesome. And so yeah, that picture is me. I printed out this huge mosaic, a 360-degree mosaic that I actually kind of stitched together just for them, and they asked me to sign it. So that crazy face I'm making is how stoked I was. But yeah, so I went up there, and it's funny. So then I sent you this other article, because I don't know how many months after, it was like May. So I went up there in January, and then in May, this GameSpot article comes out, and they mention me by name, and they say that Bungie is quoted as saying NASA is a constant source of inspiration, and it references me and like makes these illusions that I'm somehow like helping them, and I'm totally not. I mean, I just came to talk about Curiosity and the cool stuff that Curiosity's seen, and it's this. The best part is that it was a few, I don't remember, it was in May, and so somebody at Bungie, they had the mail sack, and they asked a question to they sometimes ask a question to the people that work there,
Yeah.
and the question was like, what's a dream of yours or something? And somebody said, I want to see sunrise and sunset on Mars. And I read that, and I was like, oh, well, we've actually taken a picture of sunset on Mars. I think the Spirit rover took a picture of sunset. So I just went and found the publicly available image, tweeted it at Bungie, and said, here's half your wish. and then in this article, you could see they say, they quote me as saying, just saw the mail sack, here's half of your wish. with an accompanying link to Sunset on Mars. And then the next paragraph they say, it is not clear what Hardgrove and Bungie discussed during his trip to the developer or what the other half of the developer's wish may be. It's like, it's just sunrise. Like that, they should read the mail sack. That's why I said just saw the mail sack. But
it's really hard-hitting journalism.
yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah. So anyway, that was, I mean, the visit there was by far the best moment, but then that being mentioned as somehow, being some sort of space consultant for Bungie, which is kind of silly on this game. Like it's a fictional version of our solar system, so some of it'll be there and some of it won't. So for them to come out and say we had a Mars planetary scientist consultant for Mars would be silly for both of us, I think. Like, so yeah, it's that anyway. That was probably my favorite moment.
That's cool. That's a really neat story, and I'm sure as the games continue to come out, your relationship with Bungie will continue to blossom, and you'll have all kinds of extra stories to tell about them. Because I mean, it's not like everybody's going to stop being interested in Mars, right?
Right.
All right. Well, I think we've kept DestinyAuthor waiting long enough.
Yeah, let's get him on here.
Apologies to him. So my second guest this week is DestinyAuthor, who comes to us from Destiny Dispatch, now HD Dispatch, because they're doing Halo stuff as well. So let's see if we can get him in on this Skype conversation as well, and see if that does anything to the video. Hopefully that fixes it. All right, add to call.
Hello.
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Duncan. Hello.
Hey, David.
You guys.
Oh, yep.
Hey, Craig,
all right,
what's
I
going?
think I can see you.
Okay. Oh boy.
You might be able to see me now.
I can see you, Duncan. Perfect.
All right, cool. Let's see.
I'm left out of the party.
Yeah, apparently you're just gonna have to be a picture. I don't know what's up with that, but oh well. But anyway, DestinyAuthor, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good so far. we'll see how I am and after this conversation.
I'm sure you'll do fine. I mean, you and Craig were hitting it off pretty well.
That's all right. So I guess I'll start off with an easy question for you. What relatively easy, I don't know. What got you into the Bungie community? I mean, I know you've been doing Destiny Dispatch for a while now.
Yeah.
But sort of what made you become a Bungie fan?
Well, it all started with Halo 3 back in the day. That was the first Bungie game I picked up on, and I just followed it from there. And then I came across Destiny_news one day, and that's how I got into Destiny Dispatch eventually. It's a long story, so I won't go into it.
That's cool. Do you also have like a favorite sort of Bungie moment? I guess if you've been a fan since Halo 3, that could be 3, Reach, anywhere around there. Kind of a campaign moment, multiplayer moment, a trailer, a Bungie weekly update that really caught your fancy.
I'm pretty certain with Starry in that trailer. I don't know if you guys remember that. That's what I saw that. I just thought I had the game. So what sold me to Bungie was that Starry Night trailer, and then I've since played all the Halo games, and yeah, now we're ready for Destiny.
That's pretty cool. I'm definitely digging all the stuff you guys over at Destiny Dispatch are doing with Jin and Fire Team Grizzly and all that stuff.
We have way too much on stuff planned months in advance right now. We're not going to stop with the projects. It kind of kicked off with that thank you video we did for Bungie way back when. And now we're, of course, doing Fire Team Grizzly, which will be bi-weekly. It takes a lot of effort to produce a comic, so we're doing it bi-weekly. And then, a great and I'm sure you understand, fan is handle a lot. Like, people how good fan fiction is, how great it can. So I thought we would gather it all into one big book and have fan after it, and sure enough, we put it out and people like it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It seemed like it was a lot of work, collecting all that stuff, getting the fan art, in addition to the fan fiction, just sort of edited and put together. That was a pretty neat project. It seems like you're pretty well steeped in kinds of fan fiction story kind of things, just like Craig is, creating our own stories within this emerging Destiny world. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring the two of you guys on to talk about this subject at hand, Destiny's story. How can Bungie incorporate story into this shared world in a way that makes sense and sort of fits with the perceptions and gives us a cinematic experience, but allows us to become legend on our own. I guess I'll throw it to Craig first. What sort of ideas did you have about that topic, I guess?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, from what we've seen so far, it seems like it's going to be traditional cutscenes. That's just my impression. But honestly, I'd like to see something like maybe more what Halo 3's terminals were, which I felt like were a little bit of a throwback to Marathon terminals, but not quite all the way back. But I personally prefer a little bit of a mixture between reading and audio, like a combination. So I just enjoy. There's something you get out of reading that you just can't get in a cutscene. I feel like your imagination is going to make it way more epic than something, whatever you're going to see. I mean, they're going to make something epic if you can see it, but I think your imagination, if the writing is good, and I felt like the writing in Marathon was really good, and they did a really good job, particularly in the harder difficulties in Halo 3's terminal. They were kind of different in each difficulty, which I maybe don't like, but I liked as the later ones added more and more details, as you played on Legendary, and so it was a very good story, I thought. And then combining something like that with like the audio logs from ODST, and I can't help but bring up BioShock because that's just amazing. I mean, that style of finding an audio log and listening to someone kind of narrate to you their feelings on a very personal level is cool, and I mean that adds depth to the world. And if the game's about exploring, which it sounds like it is, I think finding these little gems hidden in the world that would add depth to the story is really important. But the main story, I think, is probably if there's something like a chapter, I think that's going to be driven primarily through cutscenes. That's my general sense of it. I'm not saying that's maybe what I prefer, but I think hitting on all fronts. We should have reading and listening and movie making, and in terms of just be all three of them in the game in terms of storytelling. I guess that's my feeling on it.
Yeah, just pack the game from top to bottom with story.
Exactly.
I mean, they've been supposedly working on this for, I guess, it'll have been 4 years of all hands working on Destiny, since Reach came out to Destiny's launch, and then some of the team has been working on it longer than that. So that's a lot of time to develop the story and write all of this huge amount of content you want. You talking about how you like text so much. You sound like the kind of guy that likes the book version better than the movie version, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true.
That's me as well. There are very few cases. I don't know. What about you, Destiny author? Do you like the books or the movies better?
I think it depends on who handles it, really. I mean, you could make a very, very good movie from a great book. It just depends on how you do it. A lot of directors or screenwriters will abandon some themes that are in the book or just totally obscure them. So I guess it depends, but I am all about the reading experience first over, per se, a movie.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess the flip side of that coin, though, is that, and I might be talking out of my ass here, but but it seems to me like movies would generally reach a broader audience than a book, especially just in terms of, the amount of time required to enjoy them. So that could also translate to the game as an argument for cutscenes versus text-only terminals. You've got more people are going to watch the cutscenes than sit down and read those.
Right. I'm sure as soon as somebody saw cuts or like a wall of text, they just, I'm done. Right, like, how many times can I hit A to get this off the screen type thing?
You're right about it's I wouldn't say it's more broad. I guess it's more accessible. I would say, because not everyone, you're right, has the time to sit down and read a book, or read the description of some item they get or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Is that item descriptions in the game are yet another source of story that we can get here. It doesn't all just have to be terminals and cutscenes. It seems like this whole shared world thing is going to give Bungie the opportunity to sprinkle in tidbits of story like all over the game. Because in Halo, the game was so linear that everyone had these cutscenes they had to watch, and really the only optional stories in Halo were the terminals that were sort of hidden, or like Sadie's story in ODST, with the phones ringing and the superintendent trying to contact you. But for the most part, everyone was going to experience the same story and pretty much get 100% of the mainline story. But Destiny, this more open world, you can go to all these different destinations, so you're not necessarily traveling in a specific order. You're not exactly exploring every nook and cranny. So there's a lot of opportunity for extra story that people might not encounter.
I mean, what I hope is, the main sort of quests, if you want to call them that, or main chapters, would have standard sort of cutscene style story delivery, like we're used to. But if there really is sort of side stories, I think it would be entirely possible to sort of tailor the side story delivery mechanisms differently. So, maybe you go on a side quest and that story is still its own contained story, but it's all delivered through audio logs. Or there's another side quest and it's all delivered through, reading terminals or something. And maybe, if somebody isn't interested in reading those things or listening to those things, they don't have to. They can still play through the content, and it'll still be fun. But those sort of maybe smaller, more intimate, more detail-oriented quests might have different delivery mechanisms. But the main sort of, main action storyline might be delivered through traditional cutscene type stuff. That's what I'd like to see, but I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, and I just want to point out, Fantastic Jackie over in the Twitch chat asked how many people actually read the Skyrim books. I know the Elder Scrolls games are pretty renowned for having these huge tomes of ancillary text that not a lot of people bother reading, but it's interesting that it's there, and I think you bring up a great point of having these side quests. Like this side quest sort of gives you these progressive, text stories to read, and if you want another chapter, then you have to progress this quest forward, and maybe you can even have it to where you're almost required to read the text to find like the next clue or the next text log somewhere, and so the reward is more text. So the people that like reading that stuff are going to be rewarded with more of that. The people that like listening to the audio logs might find the next audio log that way. That's kind of a cool way to approach it.
I feel like the rewards from that may transcend the first game too. I mean, looking at Mass Effect, for instance, those who didn't read some of the content that is between the that shadows what happens in the second game, it details how exactly they got a hold of Shepard's body to revive him. For those of you who played Mass Effect and might understand that. So you're rewarded by studying the ancillary content as opposed to just sticking to the mainstay game, I guess.
And
Yeah, I think the problem with Skyrim that you brought up is, and maybe people hate me for this, but I felt like, because I picked up those books and I tried to read through some of them,
Mhm.
and there was some interesting stuff in there. Like they told you, I'm remembering something, they told you how to kill an ogre or something like that. It was like,
Yeah.
you got to go find this route, but it was all sort of told within the context of a story. But that didn't compel me to read more books. I mean, I was just, the story itself wasn't interesting. I felt like they should just tell me, hey, go get some muggy root and mix it with some water and then throw it at the ogre. And that's all they just, they're giving me a recipe in story form, and the story wasn't all that great. And then there were some others that were self-contained stories, but I had trouble really relating that to whatever my task was or how that was relevant to the world as a whole. So what appeals to me about maybe the method of delivering the story in a side quest all in one mechanism is that the side quest is a complete story. So you're compelled to go get more audio logs or go read more terminals or go see more cutscenes because it's all part of the story that you're working your way through. Like that, whereas in Skyrim it just felt like it was they were just post-it notes slapped on a board that you could walk by. It didn't matter. They didn't matter for anything. Like it wasn't a thing you were experiencing. It was just something else that was there. I don't know.
Now you sort of made me think of one good point is playing games like Skyrim and Oblivion. I actually played more, but when I'm sitting there on my couch, watching playing Oblivion on my TV. The last thing I want to do is squint at my screen and read a book off the TV, especially when there's other other Oblivion, other Skyrim to play. I'm sort of halting my adventure to stop and read this book. So what if in Destiny, when you find some text log or something, you unlock it for the companion, the Destiny mobile app. So then when you're, sitting in an elevator or waiting in line at the grocery store, you can go, oh yeah, I unlocked this story in the game, and I can read it here since I can't, obviously play, have a controller in my hand and play. Assuming, that's something the companion can do, and is it getting you to play something else? Or if you're not already playing Flappy Bird.
Right.
I don't think
you didn't break your phone.
That would be great though for any more nut, just to be able to pick up your phone and have all the text right there, or even an audio log. That would be amazing. Library,
cool. Like having its own built-in mini podcast in-universe podcast app. Maybe we'll be listening to ghosts and echoes from from within the game.
Hey, you said it.
Yeah, there we go. I'll suggest it so you don't have to. But
it's a great idea that you bring up. I mean, because it is about choice, and it's about what the player wants to choose, how they want to choose to experience the story. And if you give them the choice between watching a cutscene and reading essentially a book, most people are just going to go watch the cutscene. So, I think BioShock's success is that you didn't have a choice to watch a cutscene unless they told you were going to unexpectedly, and so you were finding audio logs, and that's what drove the story. And in other games, you're just pushing towards the next cutscene. But if you give people choices, like in Skyrim, nobody's going to read the books because hey, there's all this story that I can push forward through cutscenes and big exciting battles. So.
And the nice thing in BioShock is that you can listen to the audio logs and keep playing the game. It's not making you stop your adventure, stop your progress.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Or it could be like in Marathon where you'd be reading a terminal and then you'd get zapped by somebody in the back while you were trying to read.
Hey, I'm
glad they got rid of that.
That's true. But thinking about, reading outside of the game, what do you guys think about seeing novelizations? When Halo came out, we had the Fall of Reach come out right before the game did, and of course Mass Effect books. Are there any Elder Scrolls actual books? I'm not sure.
There's one that talks about something that happened to some city. I'd have to look it up. I know there's at least a few, but I don't recall the names right away.
Yeah, but how would you guys feel about seeing those kind of books from Bungie, right? Because with Halo is kind of Microsoft. It always felt like it was sort of Microsoft thing of like, hey, we want to sell books too, so we're gonna hire this outside person to make the book, and Bungie, you have to work with them. Um, with
Staten wrote a book though, right? Didn't he write one of them?
yeah, Joe Staten, definitely. So I'm sure he wasn't ordered to do that.
Right.
but it seems like, judging from the leaked Activision contract with Bungie from, I don't know, is that 3 years ago almost? So I'm sure it's changed, but it sort of sounded like Bungie was really I don't know, sort of almost picky about wanting to have complete control of the IP, so that if there were any Destiny books, that Bungie would be the one making that decision.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about seeing Destiny books out there?
Well, given how large Destiny is in scope and mystery, they have to do something regarding books. There's just too much content there. I mean, the lore behind the Traveler alone, I could see constituting at least 1 or 2 books, at least, just on the Traveler and its origin. Of course, I'm sure that'll be explored in the game, but it's just so big and so mysterious, and we know next to nothing about it. And it's just sitting there waiting to be discovered. Go ahead.
Let me ask kind of a leading question to you guys. Did you read any of the Halo books?
I've read all of them.
I've read all of them except the very last one that just came out like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I'm in the process of reading that.
Oh, okay.
So
what about you, Craig? Did you read those?
Yes. Well, I read the first 3 or 4, and then I didn't pick them up again until the new ones that have been written by Greg Bear.
Those are great.
And so I mean, I guess the leading part of my question was, I think there were some good elements to the first 3 or 4 books that I read, Fall of Reach being probably one of the better ones. But I really feel like they hit their stride with when they got Greg Bear on to write the most recent 2. Those are really fantastic. Like, I think just leagues above the other books. And there's a big chunk in the middle that I didn't read, so I don't know, how good or bad those are. But my personal opinion is that if that's sort of the way I would like the story to be told. Maybe it was the material or something, but I liked the way that was set up, the way the story was told, and it kept me reading. Whereas the other one, like explorations of like military life and some of the themes that I was already familiar with from Halo, but the Greg Bear stuff really was exploring something interesting and also in a different light than what I was used to. So I don't know, how do you guys feel about them?
Personally, I loved the kind of the uncovering of the Forerunners in those books, because for the longest time they've been so mysterious and just vague, really. We didn't know anything about them except that the Flood came, bam, they're dead, now that they have these Halo rings left behind. So I'm glad it was uncovered, but it was done in a beautiful way. The way Greg Bear writes and the way he describes things and events is fantastic. It was really enjoyable.
I'm getting ready for Duncan to say he hated them.
The Greg Bear books, I don't know. I mean, my biggest issue with that, I definitely think there's some merit to those. They're interesting. They're not my favorite though. And part of my issue is that maybe this isn't so much Greg Bear's 343. It feels like they sort of sucked all of the mystery out of the Forerunners, and Greg Bear did a decent job of adding more mysteries about like the precursors not precursors.
That's right, precursors.
Yeah, I think those are.
It feels like he did a decent job of adding more mystery, but at the same time, I almost feel like it's sort of tarnished my old Halo 1 memories of these mythical Forerunners, like this big unanswered question, and he's sort of answering those big questions from the early games.
Well, and you kind of alluded to this though, but I attribute that to a problem with Halo 4, not a problem with the way those books were written.
That's true. That's definitely a decent argument. There is something to be said about making so much fiction and having these external sources of fiction that you can run into like weird canon problems or inconsistency in just writing quality, or even just inconsistency in the tone and the direction different writers are shooting for. Not necessarily a quality thing, but people have different ideas in their heads for like what the, to take the example from Halo, what the Forerunner meant, who they were. Like one of the biggest things that I always think of is the fact that Bungie's version of the Forerunner were humans. Like when they were in making Halo 3, the game ended. You are Forerunner, you are humans. And 343 sort of changed that and made Forerunners into this human-like but different species. So I mean that's interesting things to think of. I definitely enjoyed reading Greg Bear's novels.
Did you have a favorite Halo book?
My favorite Halo book is probably Fall of Reach, just because that was the first one I read, and it just added so much to the universe for me. Because Halo 1, if you look at the game itself, there's a lot of story there, but there's only so much. I mean, you get about as much story from the Halo 1 manual as you do the Halo 1 cutscenes itself. So having this Eric Nyland book right at the beginning, which just adds so much backstory of Spartan 117, John and all the other Spartans. It was just really cool for me.
Yeah, that one was pretty special. I like that one too.
Yeah, so even like maybe if I read back through all of them now, 10 years later, I'd have a different opinion. But in terms of like emotional impact, like that was the first one that really got me thinking. Hey, you can have you can have books based on a video game property and have them be pretty good, really entertaining, good sci-fi.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Did you guys read any of the graphic novels or comics or anything?
I've been tumbling through Escalation because I think they're trying to bring back a few crucial plot elements with it, but they're okay. The ones written by Christopher Schlurf, who headed Halo 4's campaign, are really good. The other ones, Initiation, they weren't so great, but yeah, they're all right. I mean, the ones before that were run through Marvel were pretty good too, but they were just backstory stuff to trace the lines between Halos 2 and 3.
So that is a good point, bringing those up as well. Like yet another source of story that Bungie could pursue now is comics. I mean, they've also got live action commercials. We've already seen the Law of the Jungle commercial from. I mean, it's been a while already since that came out, but would you guys be interested in seeing more things like that? Sort of. I guess that one itself didn't really add much story to it, unless that we'll see Giancarlo Esposito, show up in a future thing. But would you guys be against seeing more live action story canon things? Like we sort of saw with Halo 3, and some of those commercials feel like they were kind of canon.
Yeah. I loved that commercial, and the Halo 3 one I'm thinking of in particular was that one where it was the model set, right?
Mm-hmm. The Believe diorama.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, that kind of stuff is great.
That event wasn't canon depicted in the diorama, though.
Right.
That's the funny part.
That's true. I remember being really, really disappointed in Microsoft marketing. Like, I thought that there were huge spoilers in that diorama, in those commercials. So I was really angry with them, and then I played through the game. It wasn't anything like that, but I was willing to overlook that.
Yeah. I want another Starry Night, personally. That whole event depicted in Starry Night wasn't really canon, I guess. I mean, it could be, depending on how you looked at it. But I want another Starry Night, something that just immediately hooks you in. I mean, Law of the Jungle was great, don't get me wrong, but I want another Starry Night that's just dead, hook, line, and sinker, you're in.
I think the cool thing about Law of the Jungle was, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like at the very initial part of it, it wasn't clear what you were watching. You may not have been sure that you were watching a trailer for Destiny. I mean, if you didn't already know that you clicked on the website for the trailer for Destiny, if you just were put in a vacuum and you saw, the actor reading to a child this Law of the Jungle book, it's not immediately clear. And that kind of thing, that I feel like it kind of happened with some of the Halo live action stuff. Like it wasn't initially clear that it was in the Halo universe, but I mean, it became clear pretty quick. But I kind of like that element of surprise, like, oh, I'm watching a Destiny thing. That kind of makes it cool, and it's building realism into the world. So,
yeah, it's I do think that it's important, building realism into the world so that players can inhabit it and feel like it's a real place. What do you guys think about sort of players adding their own story to the game? Joseph Staten, I guess this was about 2 years ago, was talking to, I can't remember, he's talking to somebody about writing story for games, and this was before Destiny was announced, but he was talking about writing story for a game where eventually the game world belongs to the players. It becomes more theirs than the developers. And I think that's something that's going to be really interesting for Destiny, because we're all supposed to create our own guardians and become legend and sort of craft our own stories. How do you think that that'll sort of impact the Bungie community, and will we see that sort of impact the game in a meaningful way? And that sort of wraps into like fan fiction, kind of like the radio dramas and the awesome comics and articles that you guys have been making. What do you guys think about how is Bungie going to be able to like take that stuff, find the good stuff, and sort of pull it into the world of Destiny?
Given my work with Become Legend, I had to I've sifted through every one of those submissions, and we had, God, there were a couple of Bungie threads that had at least 100 comments with submissions for the story, and I have to say, a lot of people wrote stuff about themselves, like, oh, my guardian's going to be a human titan who was banished by the city, but he came back, and it was all this different stuff, and just like, wow, game is well off of release, and we still have people who are already crafting their own story, who are just waiting for the game to come so they can experience it in the game. It's astounding what people have come up with.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's definitely sort of flooring to see how much fan fiction and community created content we've already seen, and the game's not even out yet. It's still 7 months away, and we've already seen this much, and it's only going to get bigger once people get their hands on the game. They are sort of living out those Guardian stories, and then that gives them new fodder, new things to write about. Then they can add screenshots and videos from their actual stories. Like here's a screenshot of this awesome gun, and then here's the sort of maybe not entirely 100% true story of how my Guardian came across this weapon, and who he had to defeat to grab it. So I think that might be what Joseph was kind of talking about. Players coming up with these awesome stories, these feats of daring do in the game, and sort of spreading those around. I mean, that almost seems like it's a great, I don't want to say marketing tool, but a great way to make a game that's super popular. If all of your players are telling all their friends about, oh, you have to hear about this awesome thing that happened to me on Mars, in the world of Destiny, then that's going to encourage other people to check out the game and make a story of their own. I don't know. What do you think about that, Craig?
As long as I can go get a PhD in space magic at the Warlock Academy, my Guardian will be all right.
I can't wait to see that diploma.
Right.
Well, you can read it on the mobile app companion and show it to everybody.
Yeah, right.
You can walk around town and say, look, I have a degree in space magic. Maybe don't do that.
I think it's really, I mean, one of the open questions for me is really what they mean by crafting your own. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I know what that means. I mean, I've heard, what you said, and I agree with all that stuff, but I still don't I don't quite know how the choices I make will make my character significantly different from your character and the choices you make. I'm still, I mean, we're both gonna kill guys, and we're gonna do that with guns or space magic, and we might be a different class, but is it really the choice that we're making in terms of what stories we choose to pursue, or what quests we choose to go on, or maybe what faction we align ourselves with? Like, I'm just still a little confused, actually, about how. I mean, I get what everybody's saying about how you're going to make your own guardian, but at the same time, I guess maybe I don't.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's still a lot to learn about this game in the coming months, and hopefully that's sort of something that they sort of explain a little bit more before the game comes out, so people can really understand what it means to become legend and all that.
One of the things we keep gravitating towards on Guardian Radio, at least, is we talk about the weapon specs that you might choose to go towards. Like, will I be a distance guy, or will I decide to only use hand cannons? And I certainly think that that's one way to define your character. For me, that's maybe not the most interesting way that I could define my character, but I hope that there are other ways, other than just, in Halo Reach, all I ever use is the DMR, and I can't use anything else, and I'm a super boring one-dimensional character. Like, I don't want to turn into that guy in Destiny because of my choice of using that particular, any particular gun. I want to be defined by, hey, I like to just go watch the sunset on Venus. That's what defines me as a guy, like, in Destiny, and maybe I get something cool for that. I don't know.
I wonder if we'll see an increase in the amount of machinima sort of produced relative to like recent Halo games. Like, if people have this ownership over a character, that's my guardian. More player customization definitely helps with that. Having a unique look and a unique build might encourage people to make videos about their guardian. Because I always know that, when people see screenshots or montages that other people in the community have made, and then they see, oh wait, that guy he killed was me, or at least I'm pretty sure it was me, because it's an orange Spartan with the recon helmet, that was probably me. Whereas in Destiny, it's like, oh no, that was definitely me. There's nobody that looks exactly like that, because there's so many permutations. That makes me think that maybe players will be a little more I don't know, a little more proactive, like taking selfies and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and there are emotes now, right? Like, you can sit and wave, and
yeah. So that's pretty cool. I don't know.
Well, take selfies on Mars. I can't.
I hope there's some real locations in Mars. Like, we can go to Olympus Mons or Valles Marineris. Like, we gotta be able to check out some cool stuff. Like,
that's true. I'm sure they'll have something there.
Maybe the remains of the Curiosity rover will be somewhere on Mars.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe the Curiosity rover will still be driving around. Right?
Yeah, controlled by the Vex.
Imagine if it was just going around in a circle.
It'll be like it'll kind of like Star Trek the motion picture, V'ger kind of, except it's Curiosity like come back to haunt humanity as this super powerful Vex boss, right, Craig?
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Although I
feel really bad.
Fail safes in there to prevent that, like no V'ger chip in there.
I don't know. I'll go check the programming later.
Well, all right. Well, would you guys have anything else that you wanted to bring up in relation to Destiny's story and all of that?
I mean, I had a list, but I think we've covered some of it. Mainly just the themes, and I didn't know if you guys I threw out the man versus nature theme that I think is interesting, and that to me, when I saw the Traveler, it seemed like the sort of the physical embodiment of the idea of manifest destiny for humans. Mm-hmm. Like, we're just destined to be out there among the stars, and people sort of have this feeling that, what NASA's doing is a great thing, and everybody loves the Curiosity rover, and we should be doing Mars stuff. And the Traveler kind of is the ultimate, it's the end game of that. It's like, yeah, like you guys have it all. You guys have space magic now. You can go travel around the solar system, and it sort of fills that deep psychological feeling that I think people have. And so to me, it's interesting that in the story of Destiny, we lost all of that. Like it was given to us, and then it was taken away, and just the very name of the game being Destiny. Question sort of, well, okay, what is our destiny? Was our destiny to be out doing all that great stuff in the golden age that we were doing, or are we actually sort of destined to be on Earth and maybe take it a little bit slower or something, you know? And that, to me, that was like what the Traveler meant, and that was a cool theme that I hope they explore in Destiny. But I don't know, do you guys see any other? I feel like there are other themes out there. I don't know if you guys had any that came to you.
Kind of relating to your point about what we're destined to do, Bungie released these Destiny backgrounds back when it was first teased and talked about. It has a neat little kind of just poem. It's very poetic in the way I'll read a small excerpt from it. It says, "The blaze sits inside a nest of little worlds, still too distant to share its heat, but plainly staring out at you. A face emerges, drawn from plasmas and radiation. There must be meanings in its roar." And that kind of ties together how, you know, what you said, you know, what are we doing on Earth? We should be out there, you know, with all the space magic and the fancy starships and exploring, as opposed to just staying here on Earth. But you're right, the Traveler's enemies came for us, and now we're back to, you know, fighting on Earth as we have been, but I'm not sure. It's very weird, the situation we're being presented with in Destiny.
Yeah, I feel like it brings up some cool themes, and I just picked the low-hanging fruit, but I feel like there's a lot of other themes out there that could be explored, and I'm definitely looking forward to that.
We don't have a lot to go on, so
yeah.
we're pulling all this stuff from almost nothing, so let's give ourselves some credit here.
I mean, you know, once they tell us, like, you know, sort of more about the Awoken, I feel like that's going to be really interesting, and more about the Exos. That stuff's going to be really interesting in terms of themes and what that means for people and the post-Golden Age kind of stuff. So,
and of course, the thing to always keep in mind is that, you know, Bungie from the start is planning on this being a 10-year franchise, you know, with Activision. So maybe we won't even get all the answers to these questions. You know, maybe the mere existence of the Vex is all we'll get in Destiny 1, and that mystery won't be explained until Destiny 2 or Destiny 3. And we might get an answer for, like, the Fallen, but, you know, there's this Destiny 1 storyline and a bunch of seeds for storylines for following games. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Like, I hope one of my favorite shows is Lost, and I feel like that show provided so many mysteries, and many of them were unsolved. But it adds to the replayability. Like, I can put on an episode and see something that I didn't see the first couple times I watched it, and that's what not all mysteries will be unsolved, and the overarching ones should pretty much, you know, be clear that there's a conclusion to the story and it's nicely wrapped up, which, you know, some people argue Lost didn't do. But I think that we should. Some things are better left unsolved, and then there can be just little breadcrumbs left in the world that give you a hint of a direction that could be the answer. It doesn't have to be the answer. It's just a hint at what that answer might be.
Yeah.
And you can imagine a better answer if you want, or you could believe the breadcrumb. So I like that stuff a lot, and it just adds depth to the world. And I think it adds depth because the player and whoever's reading it or watching it they get to create something in their head while they're playing it. They're an active participant in the story. They're imagining something, and whether or not it's what the creator of the game imagined, it doesn't really matter. It gets the player into the game, and so leaving some mysteries sort of dangling is, I think, great for storytelling, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you put all your fruit in one basket and give it to someone, that's it. They have it. There's nothing else you can do about it.
That's
so
true.
I think leaving a trail and allowing us to connect the dots and eventually see the bigger picture is going to be more worth it in the end for Bungie and ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited by the fact that they are planning this from the start to be a long franchise and not just the first game, because Halo 1, they they had enough trouble coming up with the story for that game after the concept, and they certainly weren't expecting it to be this huge sort of gaming sensation, cross media sensation even, and that it would last 10 plus years. Even Lost, they had that first season written and it was super tight and awesome, but they weren't sure if they were going to get extra seasons, and might not have had the whole storyline. Certainly seems like they definitely didn't have the whole storyline planned out.
Yeah. Well,
I
also brings
love
up
Lost too, though. But
it brings up another interesting point, in that we've heard. I feel like we've heard from Bungie this sort of Star Wars comparison every once in a while, and that kind of is on the same sort of time scale. But in terms of sort of story and lore, that's really much different than anything like Lost or even the stuff that we're talking about in Marathon or Halo Terminals. I mean, Star Wars doesn't really thrive in that kind of storytelling space. Do you guys think so? Or I feel like that's a much different type of story, and the lore there is much different.
I can sort of see what you're going for. Like maybe like it's more like Star Wars had this awesome universe building, and there was obviously one storyline through there, but it also had all these extra things that allowed room for extra stories to grow that maybe weren't intended from the start. I don't know, is that what you were going for, or?
Yeah, I guess so. Or maybe it's just the very mysterious nature was missing from Star Wars. There was the mystery of the Force, I suppose, but
it was very direct, is what I think you're trying to say. It was really
in
your face. It's there. You know what's going on. You're not thinking, oh God, what's so and so doing. You're there in the moment. It doesn't really require you to think about all the little breadcrumbs, even though there are some.
Yeah. And when Bungie says they're building a mysterious world, maybe that's what they mean, that they're building a mysterious world, basically not Star Wars. I don't know. There's codes for all these things. I feel like when they say a world that you want to be in, because I've heard that one too, all they mean is not Borderlands. That's really what they're saying.
Cold, ice cold, man.
No, I love Borderlands. I'm not even. Yeah. I love Star Wars. I'm not knocking these franchises. I think they're great. I just think these phrases are codes for things, and I feel like that might be what they mean. Because Borderlands, it's all this. It's very apocalyptic. You're basically walking through a garbage dump in most of the scenes, and it's funny and awesome. The game has lots of great elements to it, but in terms of being a place that I just want to hang out and watch the sunset, I don't think Borderlands. So.
Not unless you want to get melted.
Yeah.
But something that I think needs discussing, an ARG for Destiny, I think needs to happen almost, but I don't feel like they're going to do anything this time around. What do you think?
Bungie wouldn't do anything?
I'm not sure, because ARGs in the past have been handled by outside companies. Believe the ARG for Halo 3 was handled by someone else. That's why they screwed up that diorama scene and why it wasn't canon. It's because the company working on the ARG had no clue, almost no clue what was going on in the game. Microsoft was just like, here, do this. It's about Halo 3. And that's what they were given. But since Bungie has such tight control over Destiny, it makes me wonder if they'll do an ARG. They could pull it off themselves, I'm sure. But we'll see.
Well, to be completely fair, there was a small ARG already, right, Duncan?
Yes, in fact, I was just going to mention that was exactly a year ago. It started yesterday, a year ago, I believe.
Wow, that's scary.
Almost exactly, yeah. Alpha Lupi and
That's
that
right.
was done in house. And I can't remember who exactly was responsible for that. I think Urk had a lot to do with it.
That explains it.
But yeah, I mean that was sort of a little different than your typical ARG in that it wasn't, you know, this secret viral thing. You know, what is this going to be? It was pretty obviously Bungie related from the start.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty cool.
Did Major Nelson tweet something about I love bees like a month ago? Did you guys see this?
That was.
He did.
That
Microsoft, I believe Microsoft recently hired the person who is responsible for I Love Bees.
Okay, yeah. I think his name is
remember-
Alon Lee,
I can't
right?
remember the name. But yeah, that person works at Microsoft now. Maybe is working on an ARG for Halo 2 Anniversary, if that's even a real thing. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. That would make sense since I Love Bees was the ARG for Halo 2. So.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what that was a reference to. So everybody got really excited when he tweeted about that and started looking around for ARGs. But
Yeah.
I think he had to make a clarification tweet, like, no, there's nothing out there. Yeah.
I found some website analyzing it, and they look at this I Love Bees website, and it's just the old I Love Bees website. Like, what does it mean? And it's just what? Guys, it's over.
It's counting down to 2552, man, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, maybe we'll see another ARG closer to Destiny's actual launch. But I do feel like typically those things are better for reveals, like announcements, teasers than closer things. I don't know. ISIS was ISIS for Halo 3. That was closer to Halo 3's launch than I Love Bees was for Halo 2. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Was that a Bungie done one or a company?
Yeah, that one was also Bungie as well. In fact, that's I mentioned Urk had some. I believe he had something to do with Alpha Lupi. Back during Halo 3, ISIS, he was on the other side. He was on the fan side, helping sort of solve it and keep that going.
Nice.
Which is kind of cool. So yeah, maybe we'll see one in the next couple months or closer to Destiny's launch. I don't know.
Would be awesome.
But anyway, did you guys have anything else story related you wanted to bring up, or should we move on?
I'm good.
Good, Destiny author.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So,
Good. Sorry,
yeah,
I was cutting out a little bit.
I think we managed to ramble on about that for sufficiently long. That was a pretty good conversation. I was a little worried at the beginning that we hit the bullet points that we emailed each other and not have much else to talk about. But I feel like if anything, we've got more to talk about for a future episode or something. So we'll have to revisit some of these things at a later date. When we've got more to talk about, another trailer or something. But anyway, right now I wanted to do a really quick beat the chat. And by really quick, I mean I literally have just one question. Because this week I'm just going to give away a Destiny beta code. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to copy this one question over to the chat. Hold on, let me switch to my official chat view. There we go. Alright, so everybody in the chat, hopefully the Twitch lag is caught up to you and you know to expect this. But I'm going to drop a question, and the first person to answer it in the chat gets a Destiny beta code if you don't have one already. Or if you do have one already, you can give it to somebody else. So let's do this. Question coming.
Before we go, Duncan, the guys from Guardian Radio had some questions for you, so let me know when I should give those to you.
All right. Let's do that after this. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. So D. Bradley Baker is a prolific voice actor, and he's the voice of Olmec in Legends of the Hidden Temple. What character did he play in Halo 2? So let's see if anybody in the chat can figure this out. Hopefully,
The old Nickelodeon show? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, the old Nickelodeon
Nice.
game show, Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yeah.
D.
Trying to
Bradley
remember
Baker
the
was
team
Olmec,
names.
and Steve Doggan here has a correct answer, which was Grave.
Doggin is all over the place.
Seriously. He's pulsating everywhere.
So Steve Doggan, congratulations. If you don't have a Destiny beta code, you have one now.
So he voiced Gravemind, is that what you said?
Yes, yeah. So hold on, let me switch back to. Oh, there we go. So there's D. Bradley Baker and Olmec, and he's also the voice of Gravemind in Halo 2, and then he played the same role in Halo 3 as well.
Yikes.
So it's a pretty interesting thing. If you go to his like IMDb page, D. Bradley Baker has done voices in all kinds of stuff. I don't even want to name it now. It wouldn't do him any justice. But he's in like American Dad, the Star Wars, Clone Wars, sort of animated series, Avatar, The Last Airbender, like all that kind of stuff. He's done a huge number of cartoons. But yeah, He was Olmec in Legends of the Hidden Temple, and then Gravemind, spouting interesting Gravemind poetry in Halo 2 and in Halo 3. So congratulations, Steve Doggan. Send me an email, ncsuduncan@bungie.org, and I'll get you that Destiny beta code. So that pretty much wraps up everything I've got. Now, Craig, you said you had something for me?
Yeah, the guys wanted me to ask you some questions, so
All right.
I'll start with Watts. Watts wants to know if his beard can be on dboTV.
His beard can, but Watts can't. So if we can somehow figure out how to get Watts' beard on the show without Watts himself, because I just feel like having him and me on the same episode, that's just two, electric personalities that, I don't know, sparks could fly. That's dangerous. So maybe if he has beard clippings that he can send into the show, and then I can give away on the next Beat the Chat segment.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah.
Or I don't know. Maybe we can overcome our differences, and I'll get him on the show at some point. I do know that for all you people watching, definitely head over to Twitter and follow @WattsBeard, Watts_beard. Steve Doggan just dropped a link in the chat. Definitely give that a follow. It's pretty great, and I believe the goal is to get that more followers than Watts himself. So I won't tell you his Twitter account.
No, definitely not. Only follow Watts' beard.
yeah, just the beard. That's the only interesting part about Watts anyway, right?
Oh yeah.
I have a question for you, really quick, Craig. When is the Twitter coming out for Vife's voice?
Vife's voice. We'll get that one set up next week.
You need to.
Okay, so from Mark wants to know, Duncan, what do you drink each episode in that mug?
This is water. It's always been water every single episode.
Okay, that's the story you're going with?
Yeah, that's the story I'm going with. Whether or not that's true, well, I don't know. I won't admit. It's water. It's always water. I'm too professional to use anything else.
All right. I'll take your word for it this time. And finally, Bife wants to know if you know anyone by the name of Wednesday.
Wednesday. No, doesn't ring any bells. Sorry, I can't help you there, Bife.
I'll let him know.
Hate to disappoint.
He's got a little bit of an internet stalker. So.
Yeah, that's not me. I promise that's not me.
All right.
Is that the person who sent him those long, enticing messages on Bungie.net?
Yes, though that would be Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh God, I caught a glimpse of those, and it was not pretty.
Well, they think Bife is pretty, so
They think Bife is really pretty. Maybe too much.
All right, that's all I got, Duncan. So. Thanks for answering those. I'll pass it on to Watts that he needs to send you some beard clippings. And,
Oh no, okay, don't actually tell him that.
Imagine getting that in your
mail. That's a terrible idea. I'll get Watts on the show. I'll get Derek on the show as well, too. And
all right.
Eventually. See, I'm sort of like spacing you guys out. I gotta get my Guardian Radio hit on dboTV every now and then, but too much. I don't want you guys taking over. Come on.
It's really best to just keep us separate anyway. So.
All right. Well, I guess that'll pretty much do it for this episode. I guess, Craig, did you have anything you wanted to promote before I boot you off this Skype conversation?
We've already promoted the heck out of Ghosts and Echoes. If you want to see cool mosaics from basically panoramas from Curiosity, you can go to my personal Imgur page. That's thermalneutron.imgur.com. You can see the latest Curiosity mosaics that I put up every once in a while. I'm not making any money off that. I just feel like people should see these things because they're cool and they're hard to find on the internet for some reason. So, and then listen to Guardian Radio because it's fun. If you're really into Destiny and you want to hear 5 goofballs talk about random speculation for a long time, it's a fun time. So, we've got a good community too. So you can join up with the Guardian Radio group on Bungie.net,
which now has over 400 members. Right.
Yeah, I think we finally topped 400, right?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, Destiny.Author, did you have anything you want to promote while you're here?
Of course, Destiny Dispatch, we're always doing community projects, and we have a lot of stuff coming, and it's going to be big, and we're going to need everyone's hands on board for all of our projects. Especially check out Fireteam Grizzly. That's going to get even better if you've read the first issue. And beyond that, no, not a whole lot to promote.
And you guys are at hddispatch.com now, right?
It's www.hddispatch.net. We're trying,
that's right.
We're trying a Halo side of things because we thought we brought a unique perspective to the Destiny community. So we're trying to spread some of the love on the Halo side of things because it's not going that great over there right now. So we've got a separate team handling that. So we founded a new website, HD Dispatch, to kind of set up a home for both our services. But yeah, we're over there, and of course, so is Halo Dispatch. But yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, it's a pretty slick website. I like it. But,
thank you. I'll pass
I realized
to Jackie.
I realized I forgot to do the actual promotion, which is that you can find Ghosts and Echoes on iTunes, and you can also listen to Guardian Radio at theguardiansofdestiny.com or on iTunes. So. There's the actual promotion. I'm not good at this. You did a much better job, David.
when can we expect the next episode of Ghosts and Echoes? Do you have that lined up, or is it still in the works?
If all goes well, hopefully this weekend. A lot of things have to fall into place. So yeah.
All right. Cool.
Soon would be a more accurate answer, but yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks to both of you for coming on the show and sticking around. I think this is one of my longest episodes of dboTV yet. Get a couple of awesome Destiny scholars like you in a room together, and we could just keep chatting for a long time, huh?
Yeah, happy to come back anytime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Definitely gonna have to get you guys back on a future episode once we've got more to tear through in the world of Destiny.
GDC is coming up. We're supposed to get more details around that time, I believe. They're going to discuss Destiny's narrative or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Year. So maybe we can come back around then.
Yep. GDC coming up. But thanks for coming on, guys.
All right. See ya.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
All right.
Adios.
Later, Destiny author. All right. Well, if you've stuck around this long, I applaud you. I know sometimes we can get a little bit long-winded here on dboTV, but it's always fun. I always enjoy it. But anyway, as always, I would love to hear your feedback over at my little corner of the internet, Destiny.Bungie.Org/forum. There's always a dboTV thread if you want to talk about stuff there. Speaking of dboTV, you can always find it at this handy-dandy archive page. We've also got YouTube and Twitch accounts. You can subscribe there and get emails whenever new stuff pops up. And Facebook. Can't get away from it, huh? We're on Twitter. We're at dboTweets, and I'm NCSU Duncan. And that'll pretty much do that. So let's go over to the credits. Hopefully these work fine. I think I actually fixed the issue I was having over there. So big shout out to everybody out in the Twitch chat. You you guys were pretty entertaining and helpful this week. A lot of cool points brought up about the variances in Elder Scrolls and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, see everybody next week.